The Congress has indicated that it will give a Lok Sabha ticket to former Railway Minister Pawan Bansal, who had to resign from his post over corruption allegations. While Rahul Gandhi is trying to take a moral high ground belatedly on the corruption issue, the Congress is actually deeply divided internally over what to do with so-called tainted leaders and what yardstick to apply while denying someone a ticket. Sunil Prabhu has more.
Good news for the Congress's Pawan Bansal, while Suresh Kalmadi continues to be persona non grata for the party in these times of zero tolerance for corruption. In a dilemma over handing tickets to leaders facing charges of corruption, the Congress's Central Election Committee played it safe in a meeting, indicating that of the two, only the former Railway Minister would get a ticket to contest the Lok Sabha polls. Congress spokesperson Randeep Surjewala said, "It's unfair to call Bansal tainted. No charge sheet has been framed against him. The BJP has been leading a diatribe against him." Even the decision to go ahead with Pawan Bansal has come after some soul-searching in the party.
It would be appropriate for the Central Election Committee to reflect on the fact that those who have, unfortunately, allegations of aberrations against them, and we are not making a value judgment about guilt or innocence, could perhaps be requested to step aside.
While the party's election committee has not yet taken a decision on former Maharashtra Chief Minister and other scam-accused Ashok Chavan, indications are that his case will not be treated the same as Pawan Bansal's. The party is likely to field Union Minister Kapil Sibal from Chandni Chowk, Congress spokesperson Sandeep Dixit from the East Delhi Lok Sabha seat, and former Delhi Congress Chief Jai Prakash Agarwal from the North East Delhi seat, as well as former Union Minister Ajay Maken from the New Delhi Lok Sabha seat.
A clean chit or not, the Congress party is well aware that once they take a decision, it will become a new discussion point of whether the Congress is soft on corruption. In New Delhi, Sunil Prabhu, NDTV.
So is winnability more important than corruption in this election campaign after all that we've heard about the issue of corruption in particular, and is it something that all parties are guilty of? Joining us tonight from the Aam Aadmi Party, Mr. Prashant Bhushan. Also with us, Shaina NC, spokesperson of the BJP, who joins us this evening from Mumbai. We also have with us C.R. Kesavan, the national spokesperson of the Congress, who will be joining us shortly from Chennai, and Shahid Siddiqui, the editor of Nayi Dunya. Let me ask Shahid Siddiqui first. Mr. Siddiqui, when you look at the Congress in particular, you can see that on one hand, Rahul Gandhi is belatedly taking this high moral ground on corruption. On the other hand, we've seen them saying it's unfair to call Pawan Bansal tainted today. What do you think of their election strategy? Do you think that this is just real politics that's coming into play at the end of the day, and that they just can't afford to take that stand on corruption?
Nidhi, this is not something new. It has always happened. In the past also, all the parties, including the Congress, have publicly taken high moral ground, but when it comes to distribution of tickets, the issue is who can win. And unfortunately, we have seen time and again that those who have been even indicted or of very big corruption charges, they get the voters' support. We have seen this in Jharkhand, we have seen this with a lot of leaders. So unfortunately, the people in the country in the past have never taken the corruption issue very seriously. But now the things are changing, things have changed, and we have to see that whether really people are ready to come out against those who are, against whom there are, corruption charges. And if that happens, then in future, parties will have to rethink about these things. But at the moment, in BJP, Congress, and most of the parties are taking this stand.
I just want to ask Mr. Kesavan of the Congress party. Mr. Kesavan, then can the Congress afford to take a high moral ground on corruption at all? When you have a situation today in the party where there is a clean chit to Mr. Bansal, although there is no direct charge personally against him, but there have been these allegations. On the other hand, the party still doesn't know what to do with Mr. Ashok Chavan. It may not give Mr. Kalmadi a ticket, but we know Mr. Kalmadi is actively seeking one for his wife. Doesn't that make the Congress's position rather hypocritical?
Not at all, Nidhi. The first thing is, Congress party very clearly believes that people who committed heinous crimes and people who have been convicted by the courts should not be given tickets. And the moral high ground we take is based on these things and not like parties like BJP and, Aam Aadmi Party which take individual decisions. Second thing is, when you talk about these people here, with respect to Mr. Pawan Bansal, it's not the Congress party has given him a clean sheet. The CBI has, when the issue came up on moral high grounds, he resigned. And the second thing, he was interrogated by the CBI. And the CBI has very clearly said he is not culpable here and he's not named him in the charge sheet. So it's a very clear decision by the CBI, and I don't think why we should, engage in this realm of speculation, because, these people have not been given tickets. As far as the other two people you mentioned, see, one has been suspended from the party, and and these issues will be deliberated by the Central Election Committee. And I think we should not jump the gun and put the cart before the horses and say, they've been given tickets. But one point I want to make here, Nidhi, about, the other parties. We had Prashant Bhushanji talk about this too. See, when Shazia Almi was caught in a sting, there is no legal process. The party themselves, gave her the clean sheet and she contested. And with respect to the BJP, I want to raise one point. See, they said, Mr. VK Singh, when he joined, they said it's a nationalist party. They've inducted somebody like Kameshwar Bhatia in JMM, who has been accused of killing 17 Jawans. So I think these are tough questions we need to ask. And when I come back again, I want to raise one more point about,
the
ordinance.
Will you stick your neck out and say that Ashok Chavan should not get a ticket? Mr. Kesavan, would you stick your neck out and say today that Mr. Ashok Chavan on principle should not get a ticket, that Mr. Kalmadi's wife should not get a ticket, just on principle?
No, on principle, the Congress party will definitely take the stance on, morality and principle and the highest ethical standards in public life. The election committee is a very senior body. It will deliberate these issues, and now that these issues are in the media, everybody is aware of these things and they'll take a considered decision. I think you should be unequivocally clear about this here.
And yet you can't commit yourself to anything outright. Shaina, the question is asked of the BJP as well, because Sushma Swaraj has expressed her concerns over the kind of tie-ups that the BJP could possibly be having. Mr. Yeddyurappa has got a ticket to contest, and there are question marks about him. Is, frankly, any party at the end of the day, is it able to take that high moral ground on the issue of corruption? At the end of the day, can't everyone just admit that winnability is more important?
See, Nidhi, winnability is a reality, but in the current scenario, we all need to understand as responsible representatives of political parties that the candidate is the most important, especially in this scenario where it is the first time where the public has the right to press the button nota. Now, the point is that if they're going to exercise this right, we need to be extremely cautious of what options we are offering. Now, I heard the Congress spokesperson rattle off, allegations vis-a-vis other political parties. But please do realize that there is the reality, which is that the Congress is trying to position itself as a champion who is fighting the cause of corruption, despite the fact that the maximum scams have happened during their tenure. You have Ashok Chavan, who is implicated in the Adarsh scam, with no clear direction whether he's sharing the dais with Mr. Rahul Gandhi, whether he's going to fight, his wife is going to fight. You have Suresh Kalmadi, serious allegations again, whether he's going to fight, his wife is going to fight. You have the cases of Veerbhadra Singh, etc., who have been chucked out of the cabinet and then reinstated as chief minister of a state. No questions. Yes, I am coming to that. Please understand that Mr. Yeddyurappa, moment Mr. Hegde's report was revealed, his name was taken in 2 cases vis-a-vis educational trust for his sons. We gave up our power in the state. We had no lust for power. We asked him to resign immediately. Now, if the High Court itself gives him a so-called clean chit or kind of says that, he is innocent until proven guilty, as a political party, clearly we're entitled to a discretionary power to be used.
If Mr. Yeddyurappa is innocent until proven guilty, that's the yardstick that applies to everyone. Shaina, that would be the yardstick that would apply to Pawan Bansal, that would apply to Ashok Chavan.
Clearly, it is an internal issue which Manish Tiwari is eyeing the seat. Everyone knows this. It's a fact that he is eyeing the Chandigarh seat, and they are playing their own internal politics. I don't need to fall prey to that. But the larger point is this, that in the current scenario, we need to have better candidates.
Yes, Mr. Kesavan, quickly, yes.
Let me make one point. Let me make one point on the moral high ground taken here by Shania ji. See, you talked about the ordinances. Mr. Rahul Gandhi ensured that the ordinances, basically to disqualify and save these people who were convicted was, withdrawn. But you see what the BJP did in 2002, Nidhi. In 2002, the Supreme Court had a very, very important verdict where they said, people should reveal the criminal background. What does the BJP do and the India government? They pass an ordinance to say criminals need not reveal the criminal background, and they pass it in Parliament. The Supreme Court comes back in 2003, strikes it down and says this legislative process should not interfere with such things. Now the Supreme Court, and these people talk about morality and being probity and being upright in politics. This is the fountainhead of contradiction you can ever see.
To have an argument.
Let them say that they didn't pass an ordinance to say that the criminal amendment should not be withdrawn.
Okay, one second, before this becomes a Congress-BJP tutu meme, which it inevitably we will at some point, I want to bring Prashant Bhushan and Nikhil Day of the National Election Watch into this. Mr. Bhushan, when you look at, in fact, the analysis that the ADR, the Association for Democratic Reforms and National Election Watch have done on the number of candidates that have already been announced by parties, there are some interesting statistics here which are a cause of concern. It says that out of 70 candidates that they analyzed, 34 had some 224 criminal cases that they had declared against themselves from their previous election affidavits. The Shiv Sena has 12 out of 14, the BJP has 13 out of 32, the NCP 8 out of 13, and so on. The point, Mr. Bhushan, is that why do political parties then field candidates with criminal backgrounds or people who have corruption cases against them? Why do people elect them in the first place is the question.
Yes, this is certainly a serious issue of concern for this country, which we need to collectively ponder about. What is it in the nature of our elections or in the style of our elections which makes these criminals and corrupt people appear to be winnable? Obviously has to do with essentially money power and muscle power. Why is it that money power and muscle power helps them in elections? Is because we have an election system which has first passed the post at two stages. First at the level of the individual elections and thereafter in the formation of the government. Therefore, when people go to give their votes, they give their votes to that party which appears to be winnable, which appears to be among the 2 or 3 parties which appear to be winnable. Otherwise, they feel that their vote will get wasted. And winnability in this kind of election is largely decided on the basis of how much visibility you have, how many paid workers you have, how many people you can bus in to rallies. You can provide paid buses to bring them to rallies, how much advertising you can do through the media, etc. And all this is determined by money, and therefore corrupt people who have the maximum money are also the money bags for the party.
But is it just that, Mr. Bhushan, is it just that, or is there also a concern at some level that you have that, maybe people just don't care? That, people do vote for these people at the end of the day. Not everyone is intimidated by muscle power. Not everyone is influenced by money. There are voters who will still go out and give votes to these candidates. Why does that happen repeatedly? Or do you think, as Mr. Shahid Siddiqui says, or do you think, as Mr. Siddiqui says, this is a different election?
This will be a different election. This will be a somewhat different election. But I am saying, by and large, what happens is that when people feel that these are the only 2 parties which appear to be winnable, and the other party is giving votes to other parties whose candidates may be clean, who may have a clean record, etc., means wasting your vote, then people end up giving votes to the lesser of the 2 evils, whoever they perceive to be the lesser of the 2 evils among the parties that appear to be winnable. But I think in this election things are going to be somewhat different, because this whole issue of corruption has really sunk into the minds of the people, the issue of corruption, the issue of criminalization, etc. And today there is a great deal more awareness and agitation about this corruption and criminalization in politics.
Okay, I'll take that to Nikhil Day.
I think this time election might be somewhat different.
Nikhil Day, if that is the case, as Mr. Bhushan says, then why do parties, what are the statistics that the National Election Watch and the ADR, that they have released? What do they tell us? Are political parties then not getting the message, if indeed this is going to be a transformative election in that sense?
Yeah, I don't think political parties are getting any messages. Frankly, political parties are at a very low level of credibility. Parliament itself has been at a very low level of credibility. They've hardly done any work in the last parliament, and they have chosen candidates out of the 70, 29 who are sitting MPs, 10 have serious criminal charges against them. So they clearly don't care about these things, and they feel these are people who are going to win. And they don't care about the fact that people actually have greater and greater disdain for the entire set of the institution itself and what it is delivering. And the way people look at netas is getting worse and worse, and it's something they need to do something about. So somewhere we are also all facing a crisis. People don't have a choice amongst candidates. As Prashant is saying, huge amounts of money have to be spent. So people who don't have money cannot fight elections. If you need money, you need all this muscle power, and you get involved in all kinds of criminal activity. And if you want a way out, fortunately the Supreme Court decision that was just taken is an excellent decision, because at least technically we can stop people who come from Parliament who have a criminal record. We can have their cases sorted out as soon as possible, within a year, and maybe we can get them out of Parliament. And if not through any other way, parties will start realizing that their own people are being thrown out of Parliament because their cases are being handled. In 1 year they are being sorted out, and in 1 year those who are proved to be guilty and those who have false charges against them will also get free. So I think we need to concentrate at two levels. One is to make sure that Parliament becomes an institution with credibility, with a high level of credibility, where people are working, where it isn't a question of a technicality. Like in Mr. Bansal's case, whether or not you get a clean chit from somewhere, was your behavior appropriate or not? That is also something very important.
But Mr.
And
Day,
we
that
just
brings in,
don't have that level of
what
politics.
do you do, Mr. Nikhil Day? And I'm asking you this first before I take it to everyone else. What do you do when it is an allegation that is leveled against somebody which is then not followed up with concrete evidence? Now, the Congress will argue, as it has today, that it's unfair to say that Mr. Bansal is a tainted leader when at the end of the day it is his nephew. A court has framed charges against his nephew and not him. So therefore, where does one draw the line? What is the yardstick that one must apply? Because allegations can be made, but they must be proven too.
No, that's absolutely true technically. But Nidhi, the point is not technical. The point is, what will the Congress say when it is in the BJP or in the Aam Aadmi Party or somewhere else? Do they have a different yardstick? The point is, what does Congress have to say about Mr. Bansal? Let's forget, the first people we should be looking at, a party must know who its good people are and who its bad people are, and where they have behaved and misbehaved. And they must have the capacity to be able to say, we don't care about the criminal case, we already know someone has done something wrong. And therefore, those are the standards we are not looking at. We are getting into technicalities that when a court decides someone is guilty, of course when the court decides it's guilty, that person is guilty, they'll be thrown out. But if parties want to clean up their act, if they want to show people that they really mean something, they are the first ones to be responsible for their own people.
I'll take that
and
to
this
Mr.
applies
Kesavan.
to the BJP, the Shiv Sena and everyone
else. Mr. Kesavan, are you hiding behind legalities and technicalities? Again, what Shaina raised is what Manish Tiwari said, he said that the party shouldn't get into legalities, it should not give tickets to those who are even facing allegations of corruption. This is what Mr. Manish Tiwari has said.
I'll answer your question and I'll make a generic point to Nidhi. One thing is this, like you mentioned, this is a very vicious milieu, it's a very vicious environment. People are there to, basically allege and, make unfounded allegations. So we have to be very careful about that. One thing which we should not forget is upholding the highest standards. As soon as an allegation was made, even before it was verified, the minister resigned. I think you ought to, at some level, kind of concede that. I think he immediately resigned before anything was proved. It went into legal, technicalities. He resigned, and then now once this has come, we are saying, still a decision has not been taken. We are saying that it's been proved that he's not charge sheeted. On a larger point, I just want to make this. Very good points were made about, how to bring in good people. I think the nota, like mentioned by the BJP colleague, was a very, very good initiative, but the nota doesn't say if 50% or above, vote for nota, that the election will be void. More importantly, I think a good deterrent for criminals in becoming candidates will be a right to recall. I think that going forward, the Indian polity must consider the right to recall of candidates. I think which will really empower the people to ensure that good and clean candidates are put
but
up.
Mr. Kesavan, if you're going to argue on the issue of legality, okay, and not morality, then Mr. Yeddyurappa's charges have been quashed by the Karnataka High Court. So technically Mr. Yeddyurappa then is in the clear. Legally he's in the clear. Then you cannot target the BJP for Mr. Yeddyurappa either.
They have not been quashed.
That is the BJP's argument, Mr. Bhushan.
See, you're looking at the Congress.
That's totally false. That's totally
Nidhi, you
false.
please see what Mr. Sitaram Yechury, such a senior member, said. He said, Yeddyurappa and Kalyan Singh coming back to BJP is a deadly cocktail of communalism and corruption. It's just not the Congress. It's not just that we are targeting BJP. This is the prevailing opinion of people. So I think you can't hide behind a smoke screen and say, that you're squeaky clean. So I think we have to face facts.
No, but I want to get Mr. Bhushan in on this. Because Mr. Bhushan, this is the argument. Yeah, Mr. Bhushan, the argument that the BJP always gives is that Mr. Yeddyurappa has his charges are quashed by the Karnataka High Court. What is your position on this?
No, that is absolutely false. In fact, the charges against Mr. Yeddyurappa were investigated by the CBI on the directions of the Supreme Court, and the directions of the Supreme Court came on a report of the Centrally Empowered Committee of the Supreme Court, which found that Mr. Yeddyurappa had received bribes of 20 crores from Jindals in one case, and his children had received several other crores in another case, in two particular specific cases. CBI was asked to investigate. They filed a charge sheet. That charge sheet is still pending. It has certainly not been quashed by any court. It's totally false to say that.
Shaina, I'll take that back to you. Is the BJP then obfuscating on this issue of Mr. Yeddyurappa?
See, Mr. Bhushan can get into legalities and I can get into the facts that I have vis-a-vis this particular case. But rather than getting into cherry picking and coming back into this tu meme, I think the larger point that we all need to raise is that times have changed. 2014, you have 45% of this electorate that is below 35 years of age, extremely aware, extremely in the know, and knows exactly whom they want to vote for. If it is a mandate for stability or a leadership or anti-corruption or for progress, it is entirely the prerogative of the voter. But if you just see the pattern, Nidhi, of the assembly elections, you have close to 75% of the electorate voting. So I clearly believe that this is going to be a game-changing election, but important for every political party to do a little bit of study on who the candidates are.
And so, Shaina,
because
I ask you,
winnability is a factor for every party.
But then I ask you that as a young, articulate leader
Maybe
of the
I
BJP.
just want to just conclude by saying that if there is
Go ahead, sorry.
If there is a question mark vis-a-vis a particular candidate, it is clearly the election committee in each political party that decides. But when it becomes a public movement where people are aware of who they're voting for and have the option of nota, even political parties get extremely cautious. But we all know that in public life, there are allegations and counter allegations. There are vindictive allegations which need to be segregated. So who finally decides if somebody is corrupt, tainted or not? Is it a court of law? Is it the own party? Or is it public and television channels?
But Shaina, then I ask you as a young leader of the BJP, Shaina, 1 second, as a young leader of the BJP, then do you think Mr. Yeddyurappa should have got a ticket from the party?
Well, clearly, because one knows the facts of the case, and he resigned from his post as Chief Minister when Mr. Santosh Hegde had just 2 mentions of him in the Lokayukt. Wasn't that a moral high ground that the BJP took? We lost the state of Karnataka. Wasn't that a high moral ground that the BJP took? I think that we need to go beyond this one odd case here. If you view what Manish Tiwari has said today, is he saying it because he wants Mr. Bansal's seat, or is it the larger picture where the Congress is tainted in scams and it needs to come to its own rescue by kind of announcing that no, we will not give
Shahid Siddiqui, then what should the yardstick be?
We can't play a double game.
Yeah. No, so Shahid Siddiqui, what according to you should the yardstick be? Yeah.
Nidhi, all these parties are absolutely hypocritical on this question. The yardstick is that in this country or any country, millions of people, when charges are leveled against them, they suffer. Their lives are destroyed. Why politicians should have a different yardstick? And they are not being punished for anything. Simply, a ticket is being denied to them unless they are proved to be not guilty of the allegations which have been made against them. But they all refuse to accept that. I know of thousands of boys who have been, behind bars and their lives destroyed because false allegations were made against them. So why is a politician above the law? And it's not a question of legality. The question is of morality. And in public life, morality is more important than legality. In any democracy, we should have moral standards, high moral standards. Unless you have that, the way politicians are losing respect in the eyes of the common man, our democracy will suffer badly. We are reached a point where people have lost total faith in the government and the administration, and there is a hierarchy of corruption from top to bottom. That's why they win. I've seen in the villages from panchayat level to the bureaucracy to the police officers, everybody, there's a nexus of these corrupt, who gets a corrupt elected, who saves a corrupt, who protects a corrupt, and unless this is broken, we will not be able to get out of this vicious circle.